dad was Judge Clayton Rose, Sr., and he was a judge in Franklin County for about 40 years. Before becoming a judge, he worked in the Franklin County Prosecutor's Office as an assistant prosecutor. As I was researching to write my dad's book, I discovered that he had worked on the 1930 penitentiary fire as both the investigation into the cause of the fire and also the trial of the arsonists. That's not something he had really talked about to me or to my siblings. The fire occurred on April 21st, 1930. It was the deadliest prison fire in the history of the United States. It ranks as the third deadliest fire inside of a building. I found it to be a very interesting story and a very significant story from the standpoint of Ohio history. I looked at Columbus newspapers that were published during that period, looking for articles about the fire or about the penitentiary. And so I looked at 1,200 newspapers. There was also a board of inquiry that was appointed by the governor, and I read that testimony, and that was 727 pages. The state fire marshal appointed a deputy fire marshal by the name of Joseph Clear to investigate the fire, and he and the warden worked together to try to uncover what had really happened there. And their investigation lasted over a year. The convicts were very reluctant to talk about what they knew about the fire for their own safety, and a lot of them didn't know much about the fire. Finally, it led to a convict by the name of James Raymond coming forth and admitting to the warden and Mr. Clear that he had supplied candles to two men by the names of Clinton Great and Hugh Gibson for their use in setting the penitentiary afire. They made 3 attempts and failed all 3 times, but Raymond also said that he was not involved in supplying candles to them for use in the fatal fire, but that another convict, Jimmy Maloney, had supplied the candles. So that was a big break for the investigators. However, Raymond committed suicide just a day or 2 after making that admission. And another 7 months went by until March of 1931 before they got their next big break. And at that time, Jimmy Maloney came forward and admitted that he had given candles to Clinton Great and Hugh Gibson, and that they thereafter had told him that they had used those candles to set the fire. Both Gibson and Great were brought in to give testimony. They both denied that they had anything to do with the fire. They were told that they would be recalled the following week for further testimony. Over the weekend, Clinton Great wrote a note to Gibson that said, basically, keep your mouth shut. And that note was intercepted by prison officials and copied. And so when Great was testifying the following week, he was confronted with that note, and he confessed that he and Gibson had set the fire. The purpose of the fire was to create chaos during which they could execute a mass escape. Their way of starting the fire was to take these candles that they had gotten from Jimmy Maloney and nail them to a board, and then put weights on the board and put it in a pan that they had served potatoes in the mess hall, and fill that with oil, but not all the way. The wick and a little bit of the candle would be above the oil level. And then they set that pan beneath some frames that were soaked with oil, and then they lit the candles, and they went to the mess hall and ate. And the idea was that the fire would start while they were in the mess hall. But they miscalculated. They had returned from the mess hall and were locked in their cells, about 800 prisoners in that cell block. And then the fire started. So their timing was tragically off. Dad didn't really talk much about his work to us kids. And so I learned more from doing the research on this book about him than I think I ever learned directly from him.